flop?
That's right. 2 claps chain, no claps choice.
Damn it. Don't clap for that. That's a third for him. President Biden made a surprise appearance at a White House press briefing on Friday, and it's not a great sign when you're at the White House and people are like, whoa, what's the president doing here? I'm hopeful now that Hillary can finally have some time for herself. Like the day after the election, she was already spotted hiking in the woods near her house. And weirdly, she had already grown out a full David Letterman retirement beard.
President Trump welcomed the Boston Red Sox to the White House in honor of their World Series win. However, most of the team's black players skipped the ceremony in protest. Said Trump, perfect.
Donald Trump posted an image of Nikki Haley made up to look like Hillary Clinton. And honestly, I couldn't tell if it was bad Photoshop or a good picture of Mark Cuban in a wig. Federal officials have charged 2 men for allegedly killing more than 3,000 protected birds, including bald eagles. But on the other hand, best weekend of our lives.
The Japanese movie Godzilla Minus One received a surprise Oscar nomination for visual effects. Also receiving nominations, the Godzilla prequel, Oppenheimer.
Leto climbed to the top of the Empire State Building to promote his band 30 Seconds to Mars. The way the promotion works is if we buy enough albums, he'll jump. The Adult Survivors Act, which allowed sex abuse victims to file lawsuits even after the statute of limitations expired, has resulted in several new suits. Figures, because bitches love bringing up old stuff.
A lesbian bar in New York City is now offering on-site COVID tests for customers. They plan to use a much less invasive technique where they sort of just grind around the outside.
Biden also took time in his speech to say that shrinkflation is affecting Snickers bars and that people pay the same amount for 10% fewer Snickers. And I got to give him credit because it's pretty risky for a white guy with a stutter to keep saying the word Snickers. 8 different spellings. Kathy Lee Gifford revealed this week that in the late 1970s, while performing as a backup singer for a Bill Cosby comedy tour, the comedian kissed her, but she rejected him. More shockingly, that means she also rejected a glass of wine. Also, what the hell is a backup singer for Bill Cosby?
It was reported that Sylvester Stallone is writing a memoir. The memoir is 300 pages long and has a word count of 1. Hey, that's good acting, right, Colin? You like that?
A new study finds that your risk of developing diabetes depends on how fast you walk and whether this sound plays while you're walking.
A new study of pregnant women finds that vaping does not harm their babies as long as they're very careful shoving the vape up there. A first-class dining menu from the Titanic is being auctioned off for over $80,000. The menu includes duck in a port wine sauce, spring lamb, and bottomless water. A new plant has opened in Iceland, which is designed to remove climate pollution from the atmosphere using the world's largest vacuum. Aw, a new vacuum, just in time for Mother's Day. I don't know why I thought you'd like that.
Colorado broke into a truck and stole a box of human heads. Even more disturbing, it was an Arby's truck.
Pope Francis ended a Vatican summit by promising the Catholic Church would confront the clergy sex abuse head on instead of their usual way, face down, ass up.
A student in Texas, who is nicknamed White Lightning, set a high school record by running the 100-meter dash in 9.98 seconds. Coincidentally, people call me White Lightning because I also finish in under 10 seconds.
It was reported that more than 400 million pieces of plastic has washed up on a remote island in the Indian Ocean. And for reference, here's what 400 million pieces of plastic looks like.
A man in Iran went to the hospital after he got a AA battery stuck inside his penis. It was AA because that's the sound he makes when it goes in.
Experts say that by 2026, Disney Plus will surpass Netflix to become the top streaming platform in the world. Not so fast, said Pornhub. I am very impressed by all the Ukrainian citizens signing up to defend their country, even the famous ones. Imagine that here. If you ever read on the news, Michael Che has joined an American war, we have just lost that war.
A substitute teacher in North Carolina has resigned after she reportedly told a class of elementary students that Martin Luther King Jr. killed himself. In her defense, he is the one who decided to keep running his mouth. Why?
The nomination fulfills Biden's promise to change the subject. You clapped too early.
Biden chose Jackson after interviewing 3 finalists this week. Weird, I thought interviewing black candidates was just for show, said the NFL.
A woman in Arizona gave birth to a 14-pound baby boy. So now Arizona has 2 Grand Canyons. It's a math joke. But I have a close friend who's Russian, and I asked her what she thought about it, and she said, Michael, you know paid me to talk, baby. Study finds that 11% of American adults are afraid of the dark, especially if that dark is behind them at the ATM. In the days after New York Mayor Eric Adams announced a new plan to stop violence in the city's transit system, 6 people were stabbed on the subway. And I think I speak for all New Yorkers when I say, that sounds pretty low.
Okay, I'm already so worried. Okay, it says, okay, time out. I refuse to read this last joke, not because it's racist, but because there's a black man holding my cue card. It says I can't work like this, so Merry Christmas, homeboy, you're fired. Researchers have observed a nearly 60-foot-tall rogue wave off the coast of British Columbia, which is the largest ever recorded. Researchers believe the wave was generated when Yo Mama fell overboard.
Researchers are testing a new method to treat cancer by injecting the cells with the herpes virus. So good news, if you've ever had sex with me, you might have the cure for cancer.
Well, we're now at the point where at every press conference, the president's asked, will there be a nuclear war? A journalist asked President Biden if we should be worried about nuclear war, and he said no. Because what's he going to say? Hell yeah, man. Start digging a bunker, Jack. Recent polls show that Pete Buttigieg has only 4% support among African Americans. But that'll change once Pete announces his running mate, the Popeyes chicken sandwich. Wow. Capturing Chernobyl is like landing an audition for Harvey Weinstein now.
Doctors in Iowa have confirmed a dog disease that can be passed on to humans. Fine, I'll wear a condom. Oh, wow. Okay.
Many analysts were surprised Putin went through with the invasion, even though it was obviously going to be a colossal mistake. But he couldn't back down after all that buildup. Kind of like how NBC still had to go through with airing the Winter Olympics. Fans of the hit HBO show Euphoria have been harshly criticizing the series' creator for sexualizing the high school characters. Plus, it's just not accurate. I mean, take it from me, no one has sex in high school. Don't applaud that much. Well, this week, Russia began their invasion of Ukraine. President Putin launched the attack with support from allies like Belarus and Tucker Carlson.
Tuesday was National Pig Day, but I told that to a pig and he handcuffed me. This is a tough subject to make jokes about. I mean, in my lifetime, I've seen footage of attacks like this on other countries, but never a white one.
Jocelyn Wildenstein, the plastic surgery-obsessed woman known as Catwoman, has filed for bankruptcy. But don't worry about Jocelyn. From the looks of her, this is one cat who always lands on her face. Justice Jackson was honored Friday at a White House ceremony and said, "We have come a long way toward perfecting our union," which is a direct quote from Ben Affleck's proposal to J-Lo. Will Smith, for those of you who don't know, walked on stage during the Academy Awards and slapped Chris Rock after he made a joke about Jada Pinkett Smith, which I think was a disgraceful act that sets a terrible precedent for having to defend your wife at award shows.
During his acceptance speech, Will Smith said, "Love will make you do crazy things." You know what else makes you do crazy things? Crazy. But I understand where Will's coming from. I mean, you can't expect him to sit there and watch another man jump all over his wife without signing an NDA.
Yesterday, Will Smith resigned from the Academy of Motion Pictures, Arts, and Sciences. He wasn't going to, but then Jada gave him that look.
Kamala Harris will become the first vice president to be featured as a wax figure at Madame Tussauds Wax Museum, while Joe Biden is the first wax figure to become president.
President Biden downplayed the possibility of U.S. military intervention, saying, "We will not fight the Third World War in Ukraine." And I understand, but it's hard to stand by and watch Putin bombing things like schools, a maternity ward, and I'm just going to assume puppy daycare centers. The situation is so upsetting that I've honestly thought about marching down to the nearest Army enlistment office and signing Che up. A family in Australia has discovered what is believed to be the world's oldest message in a bottle, which was thrown into the sea over 130 years ago by a then middle-aged Bernie Sanders.
The late Maya Angelou has become the first black woman featured on The Quarter, which is not what black people mean when we demand change.
A restaurant in Texas has created a controversy by putting pictures of Bruce Jenner on the men's room door and Caitlyn Jenner on the women's room door. Even worse, they called the handicap door Rob.
Yeah. No, you can't do that, Joe. You can't do that. You can't do that on TV.
Starting on Monday, New York City will no longer require bars and restaurants to pretend to look at vaccination cards. The city will be lifting its vaccine mandate for indoor dining and events. Finally, said the next variant. Producers for this year's Oscars announced that presenters will include John Travolta and Lupita Nyong'o, or as Travolta calls her, the wickedly talented Lucretia Barnabas.
Google is claiming that Apple's practice of using blue bubbles in their iMessage app to highlight other Apple users leads to peer pressure and bullying of Android users. While Apple says Android users could easily solve the problem by not being so dumb and poor.
New York Governor Andrew Cuomo has accused him of sexually harassing her for years, making him the odds-on favorite for the 2024 nomination. You're not gonna like the rest of these. Cuomo denies the allegations, claiming that he would never be inappropriate to any broad with friggin' dynamite bazoombas.
Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos claims he was blackmailed by the publisher of the National Enquirer, which he said threatened to publish semi-nude selfies of him. And if you're curious about what Bezos' penis looks like, here's an exclusive preview.
Why are all these rich white people trying to go to space? Look, if there's any Martians watching this, when you see a bunch of foreign ships pull up on your land, take it from a black dude, don't get on them. Unless you want to be a Martian with the last name Washington.
The most important thing about Donald Trump losing this election is that pretty soon we will never have to listen to Donald Trump again.
I'll always go right back to you, falling way deeper into. I'll always go right back to you, promise what I'll always do. I love you when skies look gray.
Announced that their new Lord of the Rings TV series will be called Rings of Power, though I'm personally more excited for the spin-off Gollum in Paris.
This has been a tough week. Not to mention, we also found out 21 Savage was deported for being British, which is kind of like finding out Adele is from Atlanta. 21 actually had to leave the UK as a kid, probably because crazy-ass Liam Neeson was looking for black dudes with a baseball bat. The Boy Scouts of America agreed this week to allow girls into their organization, because somebody's got to sew those badges on. Now, again, these jokes are offensive, and that's why we won't tell them on air.
For the first time in 146 years, it has not snowed in Chicago during the months of January and February, or all the snowflakes were shot before they reached the ground. Yeah, fun, harmless, inoffensive jokes, right, Che?
Yeah, man. Why don't you go first, though?
Oh, God. Nigeria's President Muhammadu Buhari, for the first time, denied months-old rumors that he had died and been replaced by a look-alike from Sudan. See, even Africans can't tell black people apart. that I made him wait in the car so I could go into the drugstore to buy tiki torches. So I could go into White's drugstore to buy tiki torches. And then the first comment on the video is someone saying, I don't understand. Aren't you guys friends or not? Why would he do this? And Shay immediately responds, we are not friends. I think that's obvious. Finds that as people move into formerly wild areas of Africa, human activity is disrupting chimpanzee culture. Incidentally, chimpanzee culture is also what my grandpa calls hip-hop. Why?
I wouldn't have said that. Okay? That's not. Come on. No, I think this.
The graphic.
This will be good.
Yeah, sure. Michael Che sent me a box on my birthday, and the card that came with the box said, "Dress for the job you want." And then I opened the box, and it was a police uniform. A police officer's uniform with a Republican National Convention badge on it. And I opened it and I was like, a substitute teacher in North Carolina has resigned after she reportedly told a class of elementary students that Martin Luther King Jr. killed himself. In her defense, he is the one who decided to keep running his mouth. Why? Get me murdered. Was auctioned off this week. Also, I'll be auctioning off the bat I use to keep my neighborhood white.
Do you think Trump will be reelected?
Yes. Why would I lie?
Would you be happy if Trump was reelected?
No. Oh, man. Okay, this is not, I'm already so worried. Okay, it says, okay, timeout. I refuse to read this last joke, not because it's racist, but because there's a black man holding my cue card. It says I can't work like this, so Merry Christmas, homeboy, you're fired. Many doctors are saying that they have a hard time convincing their black patients to agree to take the COVID vaccine. Well, maybe they should try telling them it makes you immune from paying child support.
Whoa. That's pretty racist, Colin. Do you have any political opinions that you're too afraid to share publicly?
Yes, definitely.
Oh, do tell.
Well, no, I mean, nothing crazy, I don't think.
Interesting.
This week marks the 65th anniversary of Rosa Parks refusing to give up her seat on an Alabama bus. And I just wish that all black people could follow her example of sitting down and shutting up. Oh, God. It was announced that Creed singer Scott Stapp will play Frank Sinatra in an upcoming movie. But the good news is Sammy Davis Jr. will be played by Scarlett Johansson. Reportedly spent more than $15,000 to buy seats on a flight for his pet falcons, 80 of them. And then all hell broke loose when they started the in-flight movie, Stuart Little. It's 36 inches.
It was.
A new study finds that New York City rats contain fleas that are capable of transmitting the bubonic plague. It's a rare black eye for the otherwise sterling reputation of the fleas on New York City rats. Right. Longtime Trump advisor and business Babadook, Roger Stone, has been charged by the special counsel office on 7 counts, including obstruction, making false statements, witness tampering, and I assume the attempted murder of Batman. Stone, pictured here as an old woman being told there's no more room at bingo.
It's actually a great ad. And just to clarify, the solution for your urges to randomly mouth kiss and crotch grab unsuspecting women is Tic Tacs? Dude, I don't think the problem women have with sexual assault is bad breath. That's like Bill Cosby using a coaster for one of his love potions.
Cohen also provided Congress with copies of letters threatening Trump's high schools and colleges not to release his SAT scores. And while Cohen did not reveal what those scores were, let's just say Trump lives a little closer to 920 Pennsylvania Avenue than to 1600.
Which is just ridiculous. I mean, of all the goofy nonsense that employers do pay for, cookie cakes, tote bags, office parties, you can't also spring $10 a month for birth control? I mean, how about just skip one Bagel Friday so that Karen, an accountant, doesn't have to take maternity leave every time she raw dogs her husband? The NFL has suspended New England Patriots quarterback Tom Brady for his role in Deflategate. Wait, why are we calling this Deflategate? Gate doesn't mean scandal. It's from the Watergate Hotel, and Tom Brady did not take air out of the Watergate Hotel. He took the air out of balls. It's deflate balls. Let's just deal with it.
It wasn't your first choice. The problem is you weren't her choice, period. And what are you trying to tell us exactly? If you did find her more attractive, then you would have groped her? It's like telling your girlfriend, oh, come on, I would never cheat on you, baby. I don't have any good options right now. And by the way, we'd probably believe Trump more if while he talked, he wasn't groping the air the entire time.
Feminist is really just someone who believes in equal rights for women. And that's easy to get behind. That is until you see an actual feminist screaming into a cop's face wearing a homemade uterus hat, and then you're like, oh, there are levels to this.
Well, the first presidential debate is over, and it's official. We still have to choose between Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. It's like choosing a phone right now. There's really only 2 options. We don't want the iPhone 7, because it feels like it's kind of being forced on us. Also, it's not necessarily an improvement. But we also don't want the Samsung Galaxy, which could explode at any minute.
The recent mass shootings, saying he never saw a body with bullet holes that was more devastating than taking away gun rights. Dr. Carson, be honest. Was your medical degree given sarcastically? I'm starting to think you're less of a real brain surgeon and more of a real brain surgeon. I never thought I'd say this out loud or on TV, but please, America, pick anybody but the black guy.
The Philadelphia City Council approved a resolution honoring Gritty, the new Philadelphia Flyers mascot. After lawmakers passed the measure, Gritty kept his end of the deal by releasing their children.
We can't just let anybody have an assault rifle. Same way we can't just let any country have a nuke. Okay, if I get the need, I get the need that you want to have gun protection, but there's a fine line between cautious and insane. All right, there's a difference between carrying a condom in your wallet and wrapping your entire penis in bubble wrap. Of course, the Pope would meet with Kim Davis. He's the Pope. That's his job. He gives hope to the hopeless, the prisoners, the sick. John Boehner. The Pope should be with people who need God the most. If I was Pope, I'd be eating Subway sandwiches with Bill Cosby right now. We'd have a lot to talk about.
Cuba's Raul Castro has demanded that if the U.S. wants to restore full diplomatic relations, it must return control of Guantanamo Bay to Cuba. And I'm guessing we're not getting back our security deposit. And why is he shushing us? Is he saying, shh, don't tell anyone what's in our special sauce? Or, shh, don't tell my parents how bad my acting career is going? Or is the new McDonald's play place in the back of this dude's van? Because this isn't the image you use to sell fast food. It's the image you see when you come to after getting drugged at a costume party.
According to a new report, while Ben Carson was a practicing neurosurgeon, he was the target of 6 malpractice suits, including one patient who claimed Carson left a sponge in his brain, which sounds bad, but come on, can we really trust the word of a guy that has a sponge in his brain?
Hillary Clinton tweeted this week that she has asked the State Department to release all of her emails from her years as Secretary of State. No word yet on the identity of the lucky individual who has to read through 50,000 emails from a grandma.
Former New Jersey Governor Chris Christie has taken himself out of the running to be the permanent White House Chief of Staff. Also taking Chris Christie out of the running, side cramps.
Donald Trump blamed intelligence agencies for allowing the Russian dossier to leak, tweeting, "Are we living in Nazi Germany? Of course not. Nazi Germany at least had the guts to take on Russia." Italian-American groups are accusing the MTV show Made in Staten Island of promoting negative stereotypes. These claims were denied by the show's executive producer, a chicken parm and a wife beater. The Republican-led Senate Intelligence Committee has subpoenaed Donald Trump Jr. to testify about his meeting with Russian officials. And so that he didn't feel left out, Eric got a subpoena from Detective Pikachu.
A new report says the best place in the world for retirees is Switzerland, while the worst place for retirees is still at the top of a staircase.
And if you don't believe me, take a look at the credits.
Halliburton.
Country where customers could fill up any cup they brought in with a Slurpee. But if you missed it, don't worry, you can just do it any day. It's 7-Eleven, man, go nuts. What's the worst thing that happens? You get kicked out of a 7-Eleven? That's the best thing that could happen. Republicans this week were left scrambling to find a new Speaker of the House after Representative Kevin McCarthy abruptly dropped out of the race. And who can blame him for not wanting the job? Look, here's a picture of current Speaker of the House John Boehner when he took office 4 years ago. And here's Boehner today.
See, this is why women should be in full control of all reproductive rights. Men are not going to take birth control because pregnancy just doesn't affect our bodies. When a woman gets pregnant, she has to decide whether or not she wants a human being to grow inside of her. Meanwhile, I get 9 months to decide whether to buy a stroller or a bus ticket.
and every other decent Republican is too busy running for president. So now the GOP is only left with scraps. So I thought maybe in the spirit of Halloween, they should just stitch those scraps together into some kind of Frankenspeaker. And you know what? I think I know just the doctor who's crazy enough to do it.
I never understood why cops don't like us. We have so much in common with the police. We're both portrayed negatively on the news. You can hear our cars from blocks away. Everyone gets nervous when they think we're following them. We're the only two people I know who can hop a fence in boots. We both bring our guns to funerals. I can go on and on.
And let me just say, as a man with an extremely small penis, okay,
No, keep going.
I
You can
feel
split.
very bad for myself and my teensy-weensy peensy.
That was
Okay.
a great job, man.
Yeah.
Alex Rodriguez reported to Yankee spring training this week after completing his 162-game suspension. You know, it feels good to be back at work, said A-Rod's steroid dealer. Well, he's not a terrorist. Terrorism is the actual problem. When you only associate terrorism with one religion, you make them synonymous. There's 1.7 billion Muslims in this world. If you think 1.7 billion people are actively trying to kill you, maybe you're a little radical. Also, how are we supposed to find these terrorists if the only thing we know about them is that they're one of almost 2 billion people?
It was reported that a sequel is in the works for the Mel Gibson movie The Passion of the Christ. So get ready to see I Still Know What Jews Did Last Summer. You know, I refuse to see another Passion of the Christ movie unless Jesus has the line, "You crossed the wrong guy." Mexican officials are upset with Pope Francis after he said he was concerned about the increased drug trafficking in his native Argentina, calling it Mexicanization. Pope Francis later apologized, calling his comment, quote, "as dumb as a Guatemalan."
As this year's award season gets underway, there's growing movement to get rid of the gendered categories of Best Actor and Best Actress and instead call them Best Actor and Best Actor who got paid less.
In a new documentary, Pope Francis praises the virtues of sex, calling it one of the beautiful things that God has given to the human person. Not the way I do it.
A new study suggests that the average man exaggerates the length of their penis by more than 20%. But aren't you supposed to add 20% for tip?
NASA has named the 4 astronauts it will send on the Artemis 2 mission to the moon. And if things go wrong, I think I know who's dying first. Oh, he could do the Hitler salute there?
A woman who's been traveling the world says she's gone on 34 first dates in nearly 20 countries. Her secret? She's being sex trafficked.
2 81-year-old women have traveled the world in 80 days after the post office lost their ashes. After his arraignment, Donald Trump spoke to supporters at Mar-a-Lago and said there was a very dark cloud over our beloved country, which is also what he used to call Obama. A proposed bill in California would create an alert system for missing black women and kids. This is in addition to the alert system for missing white women and kids, the news.
The National Brotherhood of Skiers is pushing for greater representation of black people in winter sports, which are predominantly white. Huh, so it seems like someone's a little jealous that we took their precious dunk contest.
President Biden is trying to downplay the recent leak of classified U.S. documents that were posted on social media because when you're over 80, a couple of leaks is nothing to be embarrassed about.
Doctors in Nepal saved a man after he inserted a water glass into his rectum for sexual gratification and it got stuck. But I think the man actually felt positive about the experience because he said the glass was half full.
It was announced that Puerto Rico's only zoo is closing after years of alleged animal neglect.
Worse, the zoo is closing. It's being advertised as all you can eat.
The publisher of Roald Dahl's books announced that they're altering some of his insensitive language, like the words fat and ugly, as well as modernizing his portrayal of women, which will mostly affect Dahl's beloved children's classic, The Fat, Ugly Wife Who Knew Her Place. A Jeopardy contestant this week was forced to quit social media after people said his mustache looks like Hitler's. The contestant said he's so mad that he's had it up to here.
NBA Slam Dunk Contest was won by Mac McClung, a 6'2" white man who has only appeared in 2 NBA games, which is just a terrible way to end Black History Month. After a judge's ruling left access to abortion pills uncertain, some state officials are stockpiling them just in case. Officials like California Governor Gavin Newsom, Massachusetts Governor Maura Healey, and New York comedian Michael Che.
Disney World is closing Splash Mountain to turn it into Tiana's Bayou Adventure after complaints that its Song of the South theme was racist. Okay, but where's the outrage about Disney forcing a mentally challenged dwarf to mine blood diamonds? Researchers say the number of gray whales off western North America has continued to decline for several years. It's a sad fact that makes me wonder if whale oil is really the best way to give my hair this amazing volume. British officials have unveiled King Charles III's new royal monogram. The C stands for Charles, the R is for Rex, and the 3 is for how many hundreds of yards Prince Andrew has to stay away from schools.
Cup Noodles has introduced a new breakfast version of their instant ramen that mixes the flavors of sausage, maple syrup, pancakes, and eggs. The flavor will be called Mom Left.
U.S. Surgeon General is warning that children are joining social media at too young an age, and they should wait until they're at least 16, when they're hotter. Warner Brothers is producing a new movie in which Superman is black. And a black Superman actually makes a lot of sense when you remember that Superman was abandoned by his parents as a baby.
A woman in Arizona gave birth to a 14-pound baby boy. So now Arizona has 2 Grand Canyons. It's a math joke.
Well, I knew you'd like that one, so here's another one. Warner Brothers is producing a new movie in which Superman is black. In this version, black Superman's kryptonite is an honest day's work. Years ago, Donald Trump won the South Carolina primary, which means that Trump is now undefeated everywhere except court.
In an interview, Senator Mitt Romney said that he will not vote for Donald Trump over Joe Biden. Now, some of you may remember Mitt Romney.
Basically locked up the nomination, and he's clearly already pivoting to the general election with a more moderate, unifying tone.
With the liars and cheaters and fraudsters and censors and imposters who have commandeered our government, it will be their judgment day. Their judgment day.
Now, where did I hear that before? Oh, right, Bain. They ordered Trump to pay $83 million. That's how unlikable he is. For perspective, O.J. Simpson only had to pay $33 million for a double murder.
He didn't even do it.
Oh, okay, well. The jury made him pay triple what the victim asked for. Even the courtroom sketch artist made him look like that lady who got her face ripped off by a monkey. The only way this could have gone worse for Trump is if they took away his businesses, which is, of course, what happens in next week's trial.
Candidate for governor and horny Carl Winslow.
Donald Trump also told supporters that if he's elected, he will focus on anti-white racism. Thank God. My people have suffered long enough. Sorry, Che, but time's up. Campaign finance records show that in the last 6 months, the super PACs behind Donald Trump spent $50 million on Trump's legal fees. And that's with the cheapest, worst lawyers on the planet. Can you imagine spending $50 million on the people who just lost you $83 million? I mean, this lawyer did such a bad job in court, I thought her actual name was overruled shutdown.
Not even a week ago broke a story about Lieutenant Governor Mark Robinson of North Carolina, who's the governor, Republican candidate for governor there, logging onto a website called, what was it, Nude Africa or something like that, a porn site.
Was nothing good.
Leaving comments. If you wonder who's the kind of person who leaves comments on a porn site, now you have an answer. And anyway, we caught up with a Ted Budd, Republican Senator Ted Budd, who said that despite these allegations that a lot of people seem to believe, he's still going to vote for Robinson for governor. Take a listen.
I've had conversations with him. Again, they're very disturbing. It's something over the next 40-some days.
I've had conversations with him. Again, they're very disturbing, but it's up to him to prove to North Carolina voters over the next 40-some days. And then off camera, he said, I'm going to always vote for Republicans because we have the best platform.
Mm-hmm. Shame is dead, Jake. I mean, we're seeing this over and over again.
Called himself a black Nazi. I should remind people. Yes.
That's quite important, too. Yeah, I mean, we're seeing this happen day after day, shame being dead. And on the one hand, it's funny. On the other hand, you know, look at what's actually happening here. I mean, I've written about this House majority. Majority of them have voted to keep Confederate names on military bases, to abolish the education department. They're on record supporting a nationwide ban on abortion. You've got all kinds of, you know, from Speaker Johnson on down supporting the racist great replacement theory. It's all fun and games unless Speaker Johnson is in power with Donald Trump, and suddenly all these poison pills that we talk about become actual possibilities of being lost.
Donald Trump endorsed Mark Robinson for North Carolina governor, calling Robinson Martin Luther King on steroids, not to be confused with Martin Luther King on Ozempic. You go again, Colin. I don't know. I don't have it today.
I'm glad. It's a nice place. At a White House ceremony honoring the WNBA champion Las Vegas Aces, President Biden mistakenly called player Candace Parker one of the greatest all-time coaches. Worse, he thought this woman was their point guard.
Mitch McConnell, seen here catching up on news from the Middle East, announced that he will step down as the Republican leader in the Senate. McConnell has been leader for almost 20 years, but he first got involved in politics back in 1968 when he lost a fiddle contest to the devil. Political experts say that Nikki Haley could have been helped by black voters in South Carolina, but they have long disliked her. This is mostly due to a phenomenon known as bitch too skinny. Nikki Haley insisted that she's not staying in the race to be Donald Trump's running mate, saying, I feel no need to kiss the ring, while Tim Scott said he'll suck that ring right off Trump's finger. After Nikki Haley's poor showing in Michigan, pressure is mounting for her to drop out of the race, but mostly because the dishes are piling up at home.
New York Mayor Eric Adams responded to allegations that he accepted illegal donations from Turkey, saying, I have not been accused of wrongdoing and I will continue to cooperate. Then he put on his fez and sped away on a flying carpet. House Republicans have introduced a bill to rename Washington, D.C.'s Dulles Airport after Donald Trump, because airports are a lot like Trump. A chaotic nightmare that turns you against your own family.
Many are saying he is leaving because of his bad relationship with Donald Trump. But come on, just because you hate somebody doesn't mean you can't still have a very successful working relationship with them.
I almost feel like that was about me.
Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, seen here shouting, "Jump, you coward!" visited New York to protest the arrest of Donald Trump and called the city filthy, disgusting, and repulsive. But as a New Yorker, let me just say, you forgot rat infested.
Mitch McConnell, seen here walking out of a theater after watching 12 Years a Slave, announced he will step down in November. He'll be replaced by the current number 2 Republican in the Senate, a frozen embryo holding an assault rifle. Mitch McConnell, seen here after rearranging a blind woman's furniture.
Mitch McConnell officially endorsed Donald Trump for president because despite their differences, they actually go way back. In a lawsuit against Ye, a former employee claims that Ye compared himself to Hitler minus the gas chambers. And I, for one, am shocked to hear that Ye believes in the Holocaust.
Gave a moving speech on the Senate floor announcing his retirement, which honestly made me start to admire Mitch McConnell. Seen here watching a single mother sell her blood for diaper money.
Nikki Haley received an endorsement from New Hampshire Governor Chris Sununu, which would be helpful if anyone knew who that was. Officials at Columbia University complained that protesters broke windows and destroyed school property. But so what? College kids also do that when they win the Final Four. Also, you're a university. If you really don't want students to freak out, stop telling them the truth. That's my advice for school and relationships.
It's a nice place. At a White House ceremony honoring the WNBA champion Las Vegas Aces, President Biden mistakenly called player Candace Parker one of the greatest all-time coaches. Worse, he thought this...
Israeli officials are reportedly furious after the U.S. withheld a shipment of weapons. But yes, sometimes people get angry at their intervention. All right, President Biden on Tuesday issued a call to fight hate against anti-Semitism, saying there is no place for it in America. But on the other hand, Collins Country Club. Fought with them. But that's not true. What about all those cops?
Oh my God. A group of geneticists have announced plans to bring back the dodo and reintroduce it to Africa. And if you ask me, I can think of at least one dodo I'd like to reintroduce to Africa. I'm seen here definitely not sleeping. He's probably just praying. Former President Trump, for the first time in his trial, wrote a message on a yellow Post-it note and handed it to his lawyer while he was making an argument. The Post-it read simply, "Can't pay you."
Iowa's Final Four game against UConn was the most watched women's college basketball game ever, with 14.2 million viewers, beating the previous record by 14.2 million viewers. National Guard should not be called in to deal with campus protests, but I'm just happy that he's finally not sending military aid somewhere. That was my best joke, Colin.
Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene said next week she will force a vote to oust House Speaker Mike Johnson. And if there's one thing I bet she's amazing at...
Posted on X, I offered to eat 5 more brainworms and still beat President Trump and President Biden in a debate, which is such an insane thing to probably be right about.
A museum in France is using an AI-generated version of Vincent van Gogh to answer visitors' questions about his paintings. Unfortunately, the AI keeps responding to questions with, "What?"
Melania Trump made a rare public appearance when she attended the funeral of former First Lady Rosalind Carter, who died at the age of 96. Melania said that she was deeply saddened to be reminded that your partner can live that long. Musk met with Benjamin Netanyahu this week and agreed that Israel must destroy Hamas. And I think Musk could destroy Hamas almost instantly by becoming their CEO. Singapore has gone viral with a video telling people that they can get relief from constipation by sitting on the toilet cross-legged. So that's what they mean when they say crisscross applesauce. I get it now.
Oh, no. A new census report shows that by the end of the year 2060, 1 out of every 4 Americans will be Latino. That's how good Bad Bunny's music